Welcome back to the channel. This is Kevin with Everglades K9, and today I'm going to do a little demonstration with the lovely Cocker Spaniel Maisie on some loose leash walking and some techniques you can do. As you can see, she is her nose is to the ground. She's kind of pulling me where she wants to go, and I'm gonna kind of just like demonstrate what you can do on a daily basis to kind of get your dog to walk with you instead of you walking your dog, or instead of your dog walking you. Excuse me. So there's a couple of fundamental things you want to remember when you're walking your dog. Good. First of all, we're always rewarding behavior we want to see. That's a good girl. Um, so the first thing you want to do if your dog is pulling you, do not go in the direction that they're pulling you. All right. The key to this is clear communication to the dog. Okay. So if your dog is pulling you, some of the common mistakes that I see are owners will go with the dog. All right. They'll kind of let the dog pull them to the bush. And, typically the dogs want to sniff or pee. So, we don't want to allow our dogs to pull us. So if that pulling is reinforced because they want to go somewhere and they get to where they want to go by pulling and tension on the leash, it's going to continue to reinforce to the dog that all they need to do is pull you to get there. Now, what I like to do is I like to find a quiet place at first. All right. So I'm on like my quiet little street. It does get more challenging for the dog to learn. Like you can see Maisie's kind of pulling me. She wants to go to that grass. It does get a little more challenging when you're in a crowded area. If you're struggling and you live on a very crowded street or something where there's a lot of other animals or people around and your dog is really distracted, try to find a quiet place to try this exercise. I always really like trying quiet places first where the dog can kind of have a chance to focus on you so you can really mark that good behavior and slowly build up to those distracted areas. But as you can see, she kind of blows off a little bit of the leash pressure. She sees like butterflies and she wants to chase them. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with some quick directional changes, okay? So I'm working on a slip lead with something around the neck. This is going to be a lot harder if you're using like an easy walker, a gentle leader, or a harness. And side tangent, the little gentle leaders that go around the muzzle, what a misleading name for equipment. A gentle leader. That's what people say. Oh, I use her on a gentle leader. It goes around her muzzle. I don't think there's anything gentle about pulling your dog from the muzzle. And even most dogs will protest that. I see them rubbing their face in the grass. So that's some of the equipment that I don't use. I don't really use a harness. I don't really use a gentle leader when I'm doing any sort of training or loose leash walking with the dog. Because remember, people will kind of go to that equipment because they say their dog is pulling their neck and choking themselves, which is true. I do believe that. But I always think that the problem relies on we're allowing our dogs to pull us. Maybe us as humans, we aren't patient enough to kind of take the time to do some directional changes and really get the dog to understand. So I'm going to start walking away from the camera. Here she goes. She goes away from me. I'm immediately going to turn, and I like to stop. See, she's not paying attention. There we go. Just a little pop. Good. And I'm just going to turn. Okay, good. Now she's paying attention to me. All right. Even just with one or two turns, she's starting to walk with me a little bit. All right, here we go. Good. And I'm just kind of reinforce that. Good. Here we go. And I got the leash by 2 fingers. Good. And I'm going to turn again. Oh, that's a good girl. All right, now she's walking really nicely on this quiet street, which is pretty easy to do. There's really no tricks. Now I'm going to turn in front of her. There we go. Now you lose a little leash pressure. Good. Come on. Good girl. So it'll get a little harder once we go and start practicing this where there are more distractions. Good girl. But right now she's walking nice. This is the one I want to take the time to reward her. All right. I also like to try to designate the dog to one side. I like my left side, so that's what I train all my dogs on the left side. All right. There we go. Now she's getting a little distracted. Now I'm just going to turn. Good. There we go. That's a good girl. I just tried to give her food. She really wasn't taking any. So I'm not going to really feed her. I'm just going to let my body do the walking. Good. Now, when I'm walking, uh-uh, there we go. Good. Basically, when I'm walking the dog, I want to be the one to relieve them to the grass. All right. So what we're going to do is you want to kind of fall into a tight formation with your dog. And then when your dog is listening, then you allow them to go to the grass to give them a break. And this is when they can kind of take a little more freedom on the leash. All right. So we're going to go, okay, baby. There we go. Now I'm going to let her sniff a little bit. She wants to chew a little grass. That's fine. So as you're walking, you kind of want to go in and out of like a loose leash walk or a heel. And then you want to free your dog and let them have a little bit of freedom. And then you rein them back into a loose leash walk and a heel. Kind of go back and forth on doing that. Come. Good. Okay. So I want to give her a little bit of freedom. Now, as long as she's not pulling me. All right. So she starts pulling me. Before the leash goes really tight, I'm going to kind of pop her back and bring her back to me. All right. I don't want her rolling in the grass because I don't want her getting burrs. So that's fine. I'm going to stop that. So I'm constantly using the leash to guide her, correct her, and show her where I want to go. Come on, let's go, Maisie. There we go. Now we're back to a walk. Now I'm going to turn. All right, there we go. You see how I turn? I turn before the leash gets tight. All right, I turn before the leash gets tight. Good girl. We're going to kind of just keep walking in a straight line because she's walking really nicely. Now I'm going to turn. All right. When the dog starts getting a little distracted and starts veering off or looking too hard in one way, that's typically when I'll do my directional change. All right. So we just want to make it nice and easy. And like I said, guys, this is a very beginner level. I'm on a very quiet street. Okay. Come on. Cement might be kind of hot, so I'm giving her a lot of breaks in the grass. So like I said, it does get a lot more challenging once we get to an area where there's a lot of distractions, but that's what we're working up to. All right. We want to start in quiet areas. You can start in your driveway. You can start in your garage. You can even do this if you have enough room in your house, which is really, really well. The idea is to get the dog walking loose leash and then start rewarding the dog for that. That's how we're communicating to the dog. Okay, this is what I want. I don't want you pulling. And if you can't do directional changes, if you can only walk in a straight path, when the dog gets too far ahead or right before the dog starts pulling or there's tension on the leash, come to a complete stop. Stop, pull the dog back or give a little pop, right? And then wait for the dog to settle or kind of come back to you. And then we start walking again. So no matter what, we're not allowing the dog to put tension on the leash. Also, when the dog stops to go potty, I'm not pulling tension on the leash. I'm giving the dog slack. If I'm going to give the dog a little bit of freedom, then I'm going to go and give the leash some slack and let the dog go where they want to go until I'm ready to walk again. All right? So, when it comes to loose leash walking, there's make it simple. If the leash is tight, turn direction. There we go. Turn direction. We walk. All right. We turn again. If the dog's not paying attention, now I have her on my right side, which is fine. I typically like the left side. See, right there. The dog's not paying attention. I just turn and walk. That's a good girl. Good. There we go. Now that time, if you could see on the camera, she is turning with me. That's what I want to see. I want to see the dog turning with me. There we go. It doesn't take a lot of leash pressure. Now, she's also like a smaller dog, so it's a little easier to manipulate her on the leash. If you have a larger dog and they're really fast and really strong, it could be a little more difficult. So you do need some strength for the exercise depending on how strong your dog is. But, sometimes with stronger dogs, we might upgrade to a prong collar. And then, if you have a good trainer in the area or you want my assistance, sometimes the e-collar really helps. And, when we talk about equipment, we're not talking about them in a punishing way. It's really learning how to how to get the dog to turn off that pressure. All right. So today I'm just working on a slip lead. That's all I have. And Maisie's been doing really well on that. Okay. The next step is to transfer these skills that she's learned over to her clients and teach them what to do. All right. So we don't really need to practice for a long time. We just kind of need to We just kind of need to practice a little bit each day. Okay, just a little bit each day and stay consistent with it. All right. And we just reward when the dog is walking nice, and we use our leash pressure. She really needs to learn how to turn off the pressure by doing what we are asking of her, which is remain loose on leash. So anytime there's pressure on the leash, you should be telling the dog what to do. All right. So even then, when she tries to get a little bit further away, I'm just going to gently pull her back. All right. This is fine. I don't mind what she's doing. The leash is loose. I'm going to give her a little bit of freedom on the leash. That's not a big deal. And then we just kind of repeat this. We repeat this day in, day out. All right. So, and you'll be amazed at how quickly your dog can learn once you just apply the right pressure, do some directional changes, and really just take the time to get your dog to understand why they need to walk nicely next to you. All right. Okay, so that's just a quick lesson today, guys. We trained a little bit this morning when it was cooler, but it gets really hot really quickly. So I don't want to leave her on the pavement for too long. Um, and with that, uh, check out some of my other videos. I have a lot of demonstrations on loose leash walking. And always remember, happy training, and we'll see you on the next episode.